Hey, how y'all doing?
We're back.
So, we are here with part 3 of the series, The Fight for Love. We got 2 questions that came today. So, one of them is from you all, the audience, so we'll address that one second. And then the first one is kind of a question that we talked about and went through. So, that first question is, if you could go back to tell yourself something before getting married, what would it be? Tell or warn, whichever one.
Okay, you go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Go first.
Okay. So if I could go back and tell myself or warn myself of something, it would be to be careful of what you say and how you say it.
Like, give an example.
So as I mentioned in previous series, I am always that one that's kind of very direct, right? And I'm very open and vocal about, like, this is how I feel, this is what it is, and either you deal with it or you don't.
You're nappy, Chanel. Like, okay.
Well, that's true. I think I would go back and tell myself, like, hey, you don't have to say everything, right? Like, everything's not necessary to say. And at some point, specific to, like, arguments and things like that, like, at some point, you got to be the bigger person, right?
Stop trying to get that last word in.
I don't know that I'm the one that tries to get the last word in. But, if we're being specific, right? Like, there are several times in our relationship, like, where I have always just kind of said what I wanted to say. And then after the fact, like, it's like, ooh, that probably wasn't the best thing to say, right?
My feelings be hurt.
Be real hurt. She be real hurt. So I can think of a situation specifically, like we were in New Mexico at the time, and I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine about, like, what's going on and trying to help him out in his situation. And I remember specifically, I said, yeah, Chanel can be crazy. Like, she can act crazy. She can. But
you seem crazy.
But I remember, like, that seemed very simple and not hurtful to me. And it's like, no, I'm just saying, like, there are times where this can be a situation. And what I realized after the fact was that it was very hurtful to you. How did you feel? Let me ask you that. How did you feel when I said that?
Dang, you telling me I'm crazy? They gonna be judging me now. No, it's just like, if that's what you're talking about amongst your friends, then that's what, like, you feel. And so it was kind of like eye-opening, and then you had to, like, dig deep into, like, why you felt that way, what actions, what words, what things that I do to make you feel like that.
Right.
And then we had to, like, have a conversation about that. Like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm just vocal.
Is that what you call it? Vocal. All right. There we go. That's a new one.
Just having that, like, openness, I guess you could say, like, vulnerability.
Yeah, fair.
More so, like, where we're able to be okay with, like, this is how I view this relationship right now, and this is not how it's always been, but, like, what can we do to work on this? Why do I say this? What are the things that you're doing to make me say this to my friends? Because ultimately, when guy talks happen, y'all be spilling y'all beans out, spilling all your little feelings, but amongst us, like, it didn't hurt as much than it would have been, like, if you would have said it to me. You know what I mean? Like,
that's fair.
Saying it to someone and then you coming to me like, babe, I felt bad that I had this conversation and apologizing for that. But, like, if it's an argument, you like, Chanel, you crazy. You're like, I guess it's just more of a sense like that's how he feels, and I'm glad you were able to get that off your chest, even though it was with somebody else. And I know people are like, well, you shouldn't bring other people into your marriage, but for men, you do have to have someone that you're, like, able to have that conversation with, and they have that understanding, because some things you can't, like,
sometimes the emotional response is not one that you're necessarily looking for. And I think you brought up a good thing, and something that we've talked about in the past of, like, being cautious of bringing people into your relationship and those types of things. And in that situation, right, I was trying to share and convey, like, here's how I feel about some of the things that have happened in our marriage, right? And Chanel can make you feel as if she's crazy, but not necessarily in the way that, like, there's something wrong. But on my side of it, like, being respectful and understanding that, those conversations, although not meant in a hurtful way in this case, right? Some people have those conversations, that's how they mean.
Let me tell you about
but for me, you know, just being mindful of like what that is and how that comes off or how that feels. So going back to the question, like that's one of the things that I wish I would have told myself or could go back and tell myself, like, you know, that's just one example, but there's been a lot of things that I've said, you know, outright because that's just how I felt, right?
Leave them keys to my car.
Yeah, we had an argument one night.
We talked about that already.
Did we talk about that one?
I think we did.
Yeah, we had an argument, and I told her leave the keys because she was turned out that way.
Okay. Let's see. I think for me, I would look back and tell myself like to be patient because like you are the overall like big picture thinker, and for me, I'm like the detail oriented day to day, and so I think trying to put those two together in a relationship, it was difficult because Brandon would be thinking about months ahead. I'm like, but what about tomorrow? Yeah. Like, and so I would get frustrated where, you know, we're making goals and I'm like, but we're not doing that yet. Like, stay right here. And I think for me, coming into a relationship, that was something that was frustrating. But now I've been able to like adapt to it. Obviously, sometimes it's still frustrating.
Yeah. Are there specific situations that came up that you would warn yourself about? Like anything that stands out?
Our New Mexico trip.
Okay. Fair.
So, like, New Mexico was something that I think kind of came abruptly. Like, it wasn't something that
it was not planned at all.
So that part didn't, like...
I guess we should probably say why. So, like...
Yeah, so Brandon's job relocated him to New Mexico, but he had the option, obviously, so he decided to grow himself within his company at the time to relocate himself to New Mexico to help with the new call center.
Right.
I, at the time, was working for an insurance company that I was able to relocate with as well to New Mexico. But I think... Well, we were out looking at apartments and the fight back and forth, like I was like, I want to go. I don't want to go. I want to go. I don't want to go.
Sure.
I want to go. I don't want to go.
But I think a key thing, though, to mention is that we were only married for 6 months at that time. Like we hadn't been married that long at all.
We were only married 6 months, and then we had just had our first pregnancy and our first loss.
Yeah.
So we were I was trying to like figure out what the whole like miscarriage thing was, and then we were literally packing. I'm crying and sobbing to my dad and my mom, like, ah!
Right.
It was just so many emotions. We were doing family pictures.
Yeah.
So I think we had just moved into our new home.
Yeah.
So it was just like a lot of moving parts, and then like for Brandon, being that person that like sees the big picture, he's like, hey, we're gonna put the house up for rent, and I'm like, but if nobody rents it, what we gonna do? Like, we about to spend this. And I mean, at that time, we were making money, but it wasn't like...
No. We were living decently.
We were being able to, like, keep the lights on.
We kept the lights on. We did what we needed to do. We had some
food in our belly.
That first mortgage, I wish I could go back to that first mortgage. That'd be nice. That'd really be nice.
And so, for me, I was just, like, trying to be patient.
Right.
And I think that was something I just was not able to do. Like, Brandon was able to see this big picture, and for me, I wasn't able to see it. I was looking out to other people to validate why it was not a good move. People were trying to validate, and I'm like, okay, so something just came over to me like, he gonna leave without me. Like,
I think we actually had that conversation too. Like, listen, you either going or you staying, one of the two.
Yeah, we were married for 6 months. I'm like, we can't get divorced yet. Like, we ain't even got the license yet.
Paperwork ain't even, the ink ain't dried on the paperwork yet.
And so I think if I was to go back and tell myself anything was to be patient and not giving yourself grace, I'm not, like a woman who would have this expectation that as a man, you would have everything under control, perfect, there's no mistakes.
Right.
We often joke about being on a roller coaster. That's my analogy of being married to Brandon. It's like up, down, up, down. You never take your seatbelt off. But honestly, it's just something that you have to have the patience for. I'm not the person for roller coasters. However, obviously I have not gotten off the roller coaster. But I think New Mexico was an experience that that set the foundation for our marriage.
Yeah.
We were able to, I think, at that moment really enter into like trust.
Yeah.
Because it was like we're moving all the way across the country. New location, new jobs, new employee, like new friends, new everything. And so just us. So even being patient in that, because we were trying to figure out where we were gonna live, and you know me, I was like, I'm trying to live over here. Brandon was like, let's have these expectations. Like, this is the affordability right here. Right. And I'm like, but and so they're trying to get the house on the market to rent. And just little things that I think you have to have patience. Yeah. But that for me, even though we've moved around multiple times, having that patience, it was just like, I know my husband's gonna handle it, or like I know he got to, because he's a bigger picture. And so having patience with that specific thing that in the beginning made me upset or frustrated me, now it's like there's beauty in it. Like, okay, well, thanks, boo. I knew you was going to think about that. I didn't even think about that because I was thinking about tomorrow. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so the next step is, how do we handle finances? Big purchases specifically, but finances.
So finances goes to this guy right here. Something we've always done in the beginning. I don't think we're a couple where it's like, you wear this hat because you're a man, I wear this hat because I'm a woman. It just doesn't work like that for us. It doesn't work for like 21st century. However, Brandon does the finances. I pay my rent, we call it, for me to stay, and my dog. And he makes sure the lights stay on, and I make sure we got food in the refrigerator. And that works for us. Brandon pretty much tells me what I need to pay, and I try to put my little nickels and dimes and quarters together that the Lord has blessed me with to put it together to deposit, so that way y'all don't see me outside talking about some, come on, Miles. But no, and for big purchases, I think that's a good question, because someone's a tech savvy.
What you trying to say?
And so sometimes, I know Lauren and I in here, we're just playing and singing. We see big 75-inch screen TVs coming in here, new computers, new tech things, new cameras, new lights.
Somebody got to keep the lights on in here.
And I just be like, poor me.
Says the person that went out and purchased her own bike. Yeah, poor you.
Yeah, well, yeah. One purchase out of like one.
That you all get to see when she does her workouts.
One out of like 300.
So the rest of them, just for me, nobody else uses. Oh, okay. So the TV you don't watch?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But honestly, I know Brandon's a technology person, and I know if we go to a store and we're just out and about, and we go to Best Buy, that probably 9 times out of 10, in a couple of months, whatever he's looking at, I'm going to see in the house.
At least it's in a couple of months. It's not like right away, instant.
Depends on how bad he wants it. So for me, it's not something, because he does the finances, I trust him in knowing that, well, we can afford that. Right. If not, we're going to package it back up.
and send it back.
But it's not something where I feel like we have conversations. Like the bike, we talked about the bike for a long time. And then eventually I think he got tired of me talking about it and just said, go purchase it. I was like, okay, thank you. But for him, I think, I know him. So if he's looking at something, talking about something, or it's like, you know, I really want to do this, I want to do this, I know it's like, okay, he's looking at this, he's going to probably purchase it.
Yeah. I mean, finances are something that we talked about in the beginning. Actually, in the beginning, you were supposed to do the finances. I wasn't going to deal with the finances, but somebody decided.
He was already out on his own before we got married. So it was just best that he already knew, like, how to gas and, like all that stuff. Like, I was still living with my parents. I was like, I don't know. I was buying
I was supposed to pay that? My bad.
Yeah, come on, be like, shut up. Yeah?
Nah.
Why my phone ain't charging? That's a bad outlet.
No, you do a good job with your finances.
Yeah, I do. I'm very organized. But,
very organized. Very organized.
Some things can be overwhelming for me. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. And I think ultimately for every couple it's different. Everybody has, their specific way of what they want to do. So I think the thing to keep in mind is that what works for us doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So, we have a system that we go and we call it our rent and we pay it, to one another and make sure, we're all good. Whether it's purchases that she wants or trips or whatever it may be, we really kind of work through that and ensure that, hey, here's what we need on a normal basis, and then everything else, I kind of make sure that we're good to go from there. Because somebody does like to do random, I need to go shopping, or I want to go shopping, or I'm headed out to the outlet mall, maybe a couple of purses.
Yeah, can't we just have a little money there? Like, Lord, don't forget that, we're going to the store.
So yeah, it just every family is very different. So I would say, take a moment to work out what works for you. Some families, everything goes into one account, and we have friends that do that, and it works for them. For us, we want to make sure that we do what we do.
I would keep some of my money at work.
Yeah, I told her in the very beginning I didn't want to hear about how much it costs for hair and nails. That was not something I was interested in understanding that balance. Although I've had to fork out some money here and there.
And we appreciate it.
Unfortunately, because I don't like paying for that kind of stuff. But I don't.
I mean,
it costs too much. I get my little haircut for $35, $40 and I'm good to go. Somebody come here talking about some $300-$400.
I go give me a fade. We can be rocking it together.
That won't work. So... my
mom said she shaked my head good when I was a baby. So.
But yeah, so for us, that's how it works for us, and I think it benefits us in what we do. And if we needed to adjust it one day, we could. But as far as big purchases goes, we always have the conversation typically, unless it's something truly where I'm like, ooh, I need this for the business, or I need something to take care of. We typically have a conversation about it, and it's well known whatever that purchase is going to be.
Yeah, like our homes that we purchased. Well, like the homes we built and left, like New Mexico. That was a conversation.
That was a conversation.
Because eventually we were going to go with like a different builder, and then we went to the whole...
It was a whole process, but we enjoyed our process.
I got granite and all the bad.
You have granite in this house. See, now she's off on the wrong foot. This is just about finances.
I know, I'm sorry. So, but we do talk about the big finances that we're sitting in currently, like our home.
Yeah.
That was something that we had to talk about.
That was. It was a big conversation.
And having patience with, because I was like, I'm ready to get into, I'm ready for somebody to break ground on something that belongs to us. But yeah, so I think.
It was a while. We had a year and a half that we had to wait for our home to be finished. And so it took longer than what we had anticipated due to different challenges. But we made it. We made it. We're here now. And happy.
It's not my favorite home, but yeah.
Nothing seems to be your forever home. If we're honest about that.
So, we are very good at communicating about finances and big purchases. There's not a time where I will go out and buy something that Brandon does not know, that I seem like, this is probably something I should probably talk to my husband. Just always follow that gut because follow your gut, because you don't want to have an argument about why you go out there and purchase that. Like, that was not something that you need. I remember in the beginning, Brandon be like, is that a need or a want? I'm like, huh?
Yeah, the budgets were a lot different back then. You was like, you might want to think about that.
Like, Brandon was the first person that told me no. I was like, I'm coming out my parents' house. Like, I don't get told no, honey. I don't do well with that. I'm like, okay, I gotta learn how to do my own hair now. Okay. But yeah, it was a good adjustment. Again, just being able to look back and telling myself to have patience. Because being married is not easy.
No. It's a partnership.
It's a partnership that
for sure
you want to be in to the end.
That's it.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's, let's see, part 3 of this series. Please continue to send over your questions, things that you are wanting to find out more about. Throw those in the comments. Thank you for all that are subscribing and sharing our content. We truly appreciate that. And again, let us know what you want to hear, what you want to find out more about, because that's what we're here about. And trying to just share with you as we grow together. So until next time, see y'all later.